I just read the story about a Brooklyn Nets basketball player, Mr. Irving. He is a basketball player in the NBA, and he is not allowed to play at the home games because they're in New York City. And as an employee of a private organization in New York City, he is subject to a vaccine mandate to work. But he didn't get the vaccine mandate, so he can't play. Okay, that might make some sense, sure. But here's the kicker. He's allowed to sit in the front row as a guest because there's no vaccine mandate to be in the basketball stadium anymore. This is really ridiculous. I don't know how anyone can justify these kinds of policies. He's not allowed to be on the court, and he's not allowed to play. But he's allowed to stand 5 feet away and watch and breathe all over the court. And then I just saw in the New York Times that the team was fined $50,000 because he came in the locker room. So that's not okay. But he's allowed to be there on the sideline, but he's not allowed to play. And then what I think is really crazy is that somebody wrote in the comments that actually, if you are from a different city and a different team and you come to New York City, you are allowed to play even if you're unvaccinated. It only applies to people who are employees of the organization in New York City. I don't know if that's true. Can someone confirm that? That wasn't in the New York Times story, but that would make it even more absurd. So what's my point here? I guess my point is that public health has to be internally consistent. It cannot be inconsistent like that. You cannot have a policy like that and expect anyone to take you seriously. If you have a policy like this, and then you also wonder, why are people not trusting public health? Why do people look for alternative sources of information? Why do people believe some things that are not true? Well, you have failed in your job. You're the authority. You're the place, the institution. You don't have to be blatantly illogical. You can make policies that make sense. And when you find there's an error like this doesn't make any sense at all, you need to rectify it so you don't look like an idiot. And if you don't rectify it, you do look like an idiot. I also saw, there's a quote in this New York Times article from the New York City mayor, and it actually says that if he wanted to do it, he could get vaccinated and then he could, quote, play tomorrow. And I thought, what? Tomorrow? That's the quote in the article. And I'm assuming he means from the date of the second dose. I'm just assuming. Because if he doesn't mean that, it's even more absurd. But even if he means that, the second dose doesn't work immediately at full capacity. It takes some time to build up the immune response. But they don't have that in their policy. You don't have to wait a certain period of time after the second dose. And if you don't have that, then what is that policy? What are all these policies? Why is this guy allowed to stand right there, but he's not allowed to stand right on the court? Makes no sense. There have been some articles recently, including one in the New York Times, about why trust in public health has declined. And everyone wants to consider all sorts of explanations. Is it the podcasters? Is it the dark corners of Facebook? Is it this? Is it that? How about, are your policies nakedly contradictory? Is your school mask policy for a 2-year-old, say in daycare, a policy where they have to wear cloth masks at all times, except for the 2 hours when they nap? Is that the policy? And if that's the policy, that all the kids are going to be in the same room together, napping, and not wearing the mask, but the moment they wake up, they do have to wear the mask, knowing that the virus doesn't nap too, I think many sensible people, many people who don't have much education, just have some common sense, might say, that doesn't make sense to me. How could that possibly work if that's the policy? If the policy is that you have to be vaccinated to stand on the court if you work for the team, the home team, but not be in the audience when you're right there next to the court, and if the policy is also that when you go to a different city and play NBA, you don't have to be vaccinated, because it seems like from the news story that is the policy. People have to wonder, what sense does this make? What sense does any of this make? And I think also in this bucket are policies that don't account for natural infection. If you on a college campus and you had 2 doses of vaccine and then you had an Omicron and you've just recovered from Omicron, and the college says that if you don't get your booster, hey, 22-year-old healthy man or man on an athletic in an athletic sport, that you're going to be disenrolled from college. If that's the policy, then of course no one is going to trust your institution. You're not even talking about evidence for your policy. I mean, let's put the evidence in the back burner. It's not about evidence. This is just about internal contradictions, logical contradictions. It just doesn't make any sense that he can stand there and not there, that he's fined if he goes there, but he's okay to be there. That doesn't make any sense at all. And if you have those in your system, then you're going to lose trust. You're going to lose massive trust. You don't deserve any trust. Assuming that there are people in your organization who are actually intelligent, who can point out like, hey, we got to do something here. Either, we're going to have to make everyone in the audience be vaccinated to have some parsimony, or we have to do away with this private business mandate, one or the other. We can't have both. You have to have somebody like that on your team. And then when you have a policy like this, you cannot ask, well, why do the people not trust us? Because you're proving yourself to be incompetent, because your policy is contradictory. It doesn't make any sense. His breath is going to spread across the court, whether he stands there or is there. And he can huff and puff all he wants there. He can get himself excited too. He can do jumping jacks in the stands, can't he? Makes no sense at all. I don't know what to say. This is, I think, the root of it. When the policy doesn't make sense, when it's too heavy-handed, when it's not proportionate, when it is not logical, I think that's the first pass. Then the next pass is evidence. Let's say at least it's logical. Then the question is, well, does it serve a greater good? What is the purpose? Does it have a value? Is it worth the pain and suffering? Is it worth the unintended consequences? But if you have logical contradictions, if the rule is you have to wear your mask from the door to the table, but not when you're sitting and eating, but the server has to wear the mask when they're serving you, and then you have to wear the mask when you go to the bathroom. And these are the actual rules in places. No one's going to trust you. And do you deserve any trust? I don't think you deserve trust. That's the problem. And I'd love to read an article that actually talked about how a lot of people don't trust us because some of our rules don't make a lick of sense. And then if it perhaps got deeper into that some of the things that experts have said over the last couple years have been blatantly incorrect, and some have been downright harmful. And if maybe it actually was a little bit honest about school closure. Those are the kinds of things I want to read in an article that's actually thinking about public health. But if your public health, article about why people have lost trust in public health is only looking at podcasters and fringe elements of Facebook, and you're not including the fact that it's the actual policy in New York City that this guy can be here but not here, you're missing something. You're missing the thing that's different. And here's what's different. In every system, in every moment in time, at every minute, there will always be some fraction of people saying something that's totally wrong. That's inevitable. There's always going to be that person out there in the corner of the internet saying something totally wrong. It'll be as crazy as you could ever imagine. That's, I wish it didn't happen. I wish everyone was more right. But, it's going to happen. It's inevitable. That's what happens with people. There's going to be some group of people saying something that's wrong. But when it's the authority, when it is the institution, when it is Stanford or the University of Pennsylvania or the New York City that has codified something that's grossly illogical into their policies, that's when you're going to see the massive drop in trust. Because the random person on the internet has no obligation to society to be correct. The New York City Public Health Department does have an obligation to society to not be blatantly inconsistent and look like a fool. You look like a fool. I don't know what to say. You look so foolish. There's nobody who can sensibly look at that and say that makes any sense. It's indefensible. You have no leg to stand on. I saw the basketball player Kevin Durant said something like, it's ridiculous. Kevin Durant is right. Kevin Durant is you got to give this guy a job. He should be running your policy. Your policy is ridiculous. It is internally inconsistent. It doesn't even make logical sense. Let's not even talk about evidence. Logical sense. You have failed. You are poisoning trust in the institution. And of course, it's going to happen. The damage is done. Every one of these illogical policies is poisoning trust in the institution. I don't even think it can be regained. It's going to be 25 years before it's regained. But it's not broken by the dark corners of the internet and some podcaster. It's broken by people who should have known better. And they really have no excuse. I don't know what to say. If that's the policy, you got to wear the mask from the door to the table and the table to the bathroom, but at no other point. If the policy is this guy can stand there, but he can't stand there. And if he stands there, he's fined $50,000. If that's the policy, you did it to yourselves. You did it to yourselves. You lost the trust yourself. Nobody made you act like an idiot. Nobody made you create this stupid policy. You chose that. I don't know what to say. So, I thought it was interesting. I just thought it was interesting. I was like, what the hell are they doing? Why are they doing this? Why are they doing this? And it's institutionally sanctioned. That's the difference between rando person saying rando thing and the thing you're doing. It's institutionally sanctioned. That's the difference. And I don't know why you're doing it. Okay. Like, subscribe, comment, leave a message below. Until next time.